those guys. You know, LeBron's probably one of the best players in the league besides Steph.
So over the last couple of days, it's been the middle of the off season, so it's peak boredom in the NBA community online. You got niggas debating if Bill Russell was a top 5 player of all time. Of course, the usual Kobe Bryant versus LeBron conversations that I always find ridiculous and I pay no attention to nowadays because obviously LeBron clears that nigga. RIP though, no disrespect. But one conversation that really caught my attention and I had to respond to on Twitter and even make a video about was the opinion from my boy Will. I love you, brother, but I have to keep it real. And it was him saying that nobody actually believed that Steph Curry was better than LeBron James. And I think that is just ridiculous because I think we forget just how dominant and how great the peak years of Steph Curry were and the things that people were really saying about him going into that 2016 NBA Finals when LeBron changed the narrative completely. In 2014, Steph Curry was coming off of his first ever All-NBA team in his career. He led the Warriors to their first ever 50-win season in God knows how long, and not only did he have a career year, but he finally lifted them into relevancy in the NBA. In a difficult Western Conference, I should add. These were the days where the West was a dogfight every single night. One night you could play OKC with KD and Russ. Then you got the Lob City Clippers, James Harden and the Rockets. The Spurs coming off of one of the most dominant playoffs I have ever seen in 2014. Hell, even the niggas like the Grizzlies who were mid-pack in the West, they were still one of the best defensive teams in the league and had some quality nice niggas on that roster. Zebo, Mike Conley, Marc Gasol, man. Nobody was a pushover in that Western Conference. And next to join that list was the Golden State Warriors led by their new MVP Steph Curry in 2015. Because one of the things I think is so slept on about Steph Curry's rise to prominence is how good he was in that 2015 NBA season. People look at the points per game being below 24 points and automatically just think that it wasn't that great of a season. I mean, James Harden averaged like, 27 a game? He had a worse supporting cast, and he didn't even get an MVP that year. It was Steph Curry. He robbed Harden of that award. That narrative is still out there for some stupid-ass reason. And let me tell you why it's stupid. For starters, Steph was not even playing in fourth quarters. If you look at the average margin of victory, the Warriors were blowing teams out the fucking water. So yeah, sure, he did only average 24 points a game, but he only averaged 32 minutes a game. When you per 36's numbers and stack it up with even some other MVPs in NBA history, you'll see it's not that crazy whatsoever. And I like how people just ignore the fact that the man also averaged 8 assists and 5 rebounds while shooting 49% from the field, 44% from 3 on 8 attempts a game, and 91% at the free throw line. Niggas just be ignoring all kind of context about that season. And he carried it over into the playoffs. That's the craziest thing about it that a lot of people just be ignoring. Steph in the semifinals of that playoffs and in the Western Conference Finals faced 2 top 10 defenses in the league, 55+ win teams, the Grizzlies and the Houston Rockets. And that nigga went out there and hooped. As in those 2 rounds, he averaged 28 points a game, 6 assists and 5 rebounds, over 2 steals, and shot 46% from the field, 45% from 3 on 11 attempts a game, and 80% at the free throw line. The nigga at every single turn was dominating. And in the finals, he took care of business. Sure, he didn't win that finals MVP, but we all look back at that stupid ass decision as a stupid ass decision, my nigga. There's no need to overthink it. Iguodala's 16 points per game should not move you enough to say that he was the finals MVP over Steph Curry in a series that Draymond and Klay were looking like some motherfucking bums. Iggy was simply just a benefactor of having little to no expectations, while Steph had the weight of the world on his shoulders with his, especially after they went down 2-1 in a series that LeBron was undermanned without Kyrie Irving or Kevin Love. It was all just a narrative thing. And I truly do believe that if Steph rightfully won that 2015 Finals MVP, there would have been even more pressure in the conversation between him and LeBron, and I'll even throw KD in there, about who was the best player in the league. Because while Steph was doing all this in 2015, LeBron was having a pretty down season offensively. As in the regular season, his efficiency took a noticeable drop off. He shot below 50% from the field. That was the first time he did that ever since 2009. And hell, even his free throw percentage dropped to 71%. That was the lowest it had been ever since 2008. And then you couple that with the fact that throughout the entire postseason, LeBron shot below 42% from the field, 23% from three, and 73% at the free throw line. It was just a down year as a whole for LeBron. And it wasn't just about missing Kyrie or Kevin Love in the finals. Even in that semifinal series against the Chicago Bulls, I remember this nigga Jimmy Butler had LeBron in Alcatraz. And whether you want to say it was coasting or not, at the end of the day, the production is right there. Even in 2016, that same vibe carried over. As in that regular season, his shooting woes from three continued to plummet to now 31% from behind the arc on even less attempts than the year prior. The fact of the matter is that LeBron in those regular seasons was not playing up to his standard. Whether it was him coasting or just playing bad for whatever other reason, Steph was clearly the better player in the 2015 regular season and 2015 playoffs. And the wild thing about that is people still gave LeBron James the benefit of the doubt, because even despite a sus regular season and playoffs, in the finals, despite how inefficient he was, he went out there and played fuck it basketball and put up some insane volume numbers with such a nasty supporting cast of Timofey Mozgov, J.R. Smith, and a whole bunch of randoms. So despite Steph playing better and putting himself in that conversation, LeBron still had a grip on the best player in the league title, and he deserved it. The body of work he had shown up until that point, along with the dominant finals performance yet again, Curry needed to do more than have one excellent season to really cement himself as the best player in the league and take that throne from LeBron. Which brings us to the complicated story of 2016, where Steph Curry had, and I kid you not, one of the greatest offensive seasons of all time. You could argue the fucking best. The man went out there and did things we have never seen before, similar to 2015, but on fucking steroids. It's easy to look at it now and say it's not that crazy considering what Steph has shown since then and how teams have even adjusted to defending him. But the way he changed the game wasn't just about him making so many threes. It was the kinds of threes he was making and how far he was stretching a defense. To just cross half court and niggas are yelling, "Get up on this guy. We can't let him take a fucking logo three." I had never seen shit like that for real. People were literally saying this man was in the Illuminati, and I almost believed it. I mean, the numbers speak for themselves. 30 points per game on 50, 45, 90 shooting splits. The man led the league in scoring, led the league in steals, and led the league in efficiency, as he led the league in true shooting percentage. As a fucking guard. This was undoubtedly, and I mean undoubtedly, the greatest regular season, offensively speaking, I have ever seen in my life. And yes, I'm aware that includes Kevin Durant, I'm aware that includes Kobe Bryant, and I'm aware that includes LeBron James. And sure, I definitely do think that Nikola Jokic is on his way to passing Steph Curry. I mean, you could even argue he's already surpassed him as an offensive player, but at that time, I ain't ever seen some shit like that. There was a month Steph Curry had in February where, I kid you not, he went out there for the whole month and averaged 37 points a game, 7 assists, 6 rebounds, 2 steals. And get this, he averaged 54% shooting from 3 on 13 attempts a game. Let me repeat that for you. 54% shooting from 3 on 13 attempts a game. That doesn't even get into the fact that he shot 55% from the field and 88% at the free throw line, my nigga. And it all culminated at the end of the month with one of the most iconic games in the history of basketball. I don't give a fuck if it's a regular season game or not. The shit I saw in that game was some Illuminati devil magic ass shit. And the day after, at the lunchroom table in high school, every nigga was talking about it. Every locker room, every football team, basketball team, track team, even the hoes was talking about Steph Curry. It was fucking crazy what happened. As February 27th, 2016, against the Oklahoma City Thunder, Steph Curry and the Golden State Warriors walked into Chesapeake Arena and had one of the most iconic regular season games in NBA history. As in the first half, the Oklahoma City Thunder were up against the Golden State Warriors, who at the time were 52-5. Trying to break the record from the Chicago Bulls in 1996 for the most wins in regular season history. So every win, every loss, it all mattered. In OKC with the home court advantage, they wanted to ruin that, especially considering that all season, they hadn't beaten the Warriors, obviously. And in the first half, it looked like it might be the night to do it. As the Oklahoma City Thunder were up double digits, Draymond Green was scoreless from the field, which may seem normal now, but back in the day, Draymond was actually a decent offensive player who wasn't afraid of taking layups. And along with Klay Thompson in the first half, he had 7 points on 9 shots. And though Steph was having a solid game with 15 points on 55% shooting from the field, he obviously needed to step it up and put it in a higher gear with his teammates not having it that night. Meanwhile, on the OKC side of things, Russell Westbrook and KD, they had that shit going. KD had 21 points on 61% shooting from the field, along with Russ, who had 14 points and 7 assists on 58% shooting from the field. Them boys was locked in and ready to ruin all the fun. And then in the third quarter, Steph and Klay get cooking again. The Splash Bros at work. Steph drops 11 points on 50% shooting, all threes, and Klay Thompson pitches in with a cool little 10-piece. But despite how well they played in the third quarter, and Russell Westbrook having more turnovers in that third than shots made, they were still down going into that fourth quarter. Thankfully though, with a little bit of Russell Westbrook choking, a few KD misses, and Steph Curry and Klay Thompson still kicking it into full gear, it's less than 2 minutes in the game. KD makes his free throws, but then Steph makes a 3 to cut the lead to 2 points. One thing leads to another after a Klay Thompson 3 and another make layup. We're going to overtime 103 apiece, my nigga. And in overtime, that's where Steph Curry basically outscored damn near the entire Thunder team in that time period, as he rained 3 after 3 after 3. But we all know the most iconic spot of that game. Obviously, when he was coming down court, no fear in his heart, not a single ounce in his body that didn't have the utmost confidence. Dribbles down the court, and once he passes half court, you can literally see the OKC bench telling Roberson, "Get on that nigga right now." But unfortunately, it was too late. That nigga pulled up. And we all know the story from there.
They do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Curry, way downtown. Bang! Bang!
It was one of the most iconic moments in basketball history. The man went out there and made 12 threes in that game. The man was going into that game averaging like 36 throughout that entire month and was coming off of a 50-piece. His confidence, his swagger, and his level of play, it was at an all-time high in ways we had never seen before. He was doing it individually, and it was rubbing off on his teammates in ways we ain't never seen before. Klay Thompson wasn't some shot creator, nor was Draymond Green. But Steph made those guys into way better offensive threats than they had any business being, because the damage he did as a shooter, a high volume shooter, to the volume that we've never even seen before, with the range he has, the playmaking he has, the handle to create on the perimeter and score off the ball. It led to a 6'3" guard dominating the game in ways we had never seen before. And I truly do believe, because he was something that we had never seen, especially at the guard position, it led to people getting carried away in the moment, whether you think it was right or wrong, and numerous people came on TV, national media, and perpetuated the idea of not only Steph Curry being the best player in the world.
Steph Curry is the best player in the world. He's the most explosive offensive player right now in the game of basketball, and he's the greatest shooter I've ever seen.
But of course, with how great he was offensively and leading the Warriors to 73 wins, they were comparing him to Michael Jordan. Now, I'm not going to sit here and do that, because I believe Michael Jordan is the greatest scorer of all time. He clears Steph in that category and obviously is a better defensive player, one of the best defensive guards of all time. But if you actually look at what Steph was doing offensively at that time, It was not a ridiculous conversation to have when you're talking about just the offensive side of the ball. And I truly do believe in that moment on February 27th in 2016, Steph Curry was the best player on the motherfucking planet. It really is crazy to me how people try to rewrite history and act like that wasn't even a conversation people were having. Because in that moment, whether you were watching TV shows say it, having people discuss it on podcasts, or your boys at the lunch table, to act like nobody was saying it when the facts are right there and I literally watched it in real time happen. It's fucking nasty. And you guys are very fortunate that Steph was injured in that 2016 finals and just handed LeBron and the Cavaliers that championship. And we never got to see a proper rematch between the two because KD had to ruin that shit by joining the fucking ops.